Italy, a gorgeous villa, a week filled with art, creativity, delicious food, and fascinating people. Sign me up. Thankfully, today's story is even better. We are talking about what it really takes to bring artists and travelers together in Italy, and what happens when the beautiful retreat dream meets the very unpredictable reality of business. Hello, dreamers, believers, and bucket list retreaters. Welcome back to Bucket List Retreats, the podcast. I'm your hostess, Kelly Morgan Murley. And if you are new here, you are in for a treat. This week, our guest, Cynthia Morgan, also known as Cynthia from Umbrian Art Retreats for Italy Lovers, joins us all the way from Umbria. It's Prosecco time in her part of the world, but cappuccino time in my part of the world. And I cannot wait to share Cynthia with all of you who don't already know her. She is a mother, an entrepreneur, a world traveler, which obviously has trickled down to her son, who has just finished sailing completely around the world. She was just at the finish line to see him. Can you imagine? It is such an amazing story. It would be a podcast all on its own. She is a retreat organizer who brings together artists and their communities for extraordinary experiences. And Cynthia and I met through Carla Beisinger's class on Instagram. We are all trying to up our Instagram game and would love if you would follow us over there. Links in the show notes. Of course, I was immediately fascinated by her retreats and started following her and ended up learning how she created a life. And through conversations, soon found out that she had built retreats around her life in this beautiful community that she lives in. Technically, we do both work in the same industry, but I genuinely admire what she has created. And I do believe there is room for many styles of retreats, and you will hear about some of the retreats she's having. They are so unique, yet I think anyone would love to go to them. And why would I want to hide that? You might see me there. We all get downloads of different types of dreams, and we all know that we can't all be in all places at all times. Cynthia is refreshingly honest about her entire journey. We talk about the successful and profitable retreats. We talk about the losses, the retreats she's had to cancel, what it's like working with artists and attendees all around the world. One thing that has happened is that some of her attendees have become teachers at her retreats. Isn't that so serendipitous? I love it. And she also talks about what it takes to turn a beautiful Italian retreat dream into a successful business. So let's head to Italy and go behind the beautiful Villa door. Here is my conversation with Cynthia Morgan. Nice name, by the way. Cynthia, welcome into the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here from the middle of Italy, from my little field in the middle of Italy.
We're so excited to hear about it. Every person I know in the United States and Canada, we all, of course, love Italy or dream of coming to Italy. So I mentioned in the open that you and I met in the Instagram class with Carla Beisinger. Do you think I'm pronouncing her last name properly?
Yep, that's how I say it.
Tell me how's that class worked out for you?
I fall into one of those students that listens, takes notes, is always learning, and then doesn't act. Because juggling two businesses, everything is just going at top speed, and you're trying to better yourself. You're trying to get better at what you do while at the same time keeping the ball rolling. So, something falls to the wayside, and it always seems to be that.
It's a lot. She gives so much
Hmm.
information.
She's
I'm just
super
trying
great.
to keep up, and
Yeah.
it's really helped. Like, I can tell I haven't grown by leaps and bounds on Instagram, but I can tell that the new people that I have attracted
Hmm.
are my people. They're the
Yep.
ones that I've been looking for.
Well,
So,
and the other benefit of a group or any mastermind is the people that are following her. When you see the successes, you know it's out there. You know it
right.
works. You see the people if
Yes,
they're just starting
yes.
out and they don't have a following and they're learning and they say to her, "Oh, I've just gotten this many hits or this much engagement or people are forwarding my posts." You're like, "Oh, good. Then what she's teaching works." So I think it's always valuable being in there.
The first of the month, I think she does that intro, and I think that's where I saw you. And you were talking about retreats, and of course, anyone that's talking about retreats
You were
is,
like, "Ding ding ding."
spikes my, So I sent you a message on Insta and said, "Hey, let's talk." And we've talked a couple times. It's been so interesting. I just love what you do, so I wanted to have you on the podcast so you could
Thank
tell us
you.
all about it. Let's start out with you telling us about how you got into retreating.
Um how did I get into retreating? I've been traveling my whole life. I left America with a backpack at 29 for the third time to travel around the world, and that third time I didn't come home. So I've always been on the road. I ended up doing a year in Asia and told my boyfriend and my parents and my best friends to watch the cats. I'll be back in a year. And my boss, and I never went back. I stayed 13 years in Asia. I got married and had 3 kids out there. And one day, before we had the children, we were backpacking around South America and we'd run out of money again. And it was like, it's time to go home. And he was a Brit and said, "Oh, I'll buy tickets to England." And I said, "I don't want to live in England." And he said, "Well, I don't want to live in America." And I said, "I didn't say America. I thought we'd go back to Hong Kong where all our contacts are." And our brains just went, "Oh my gosh, if you don't ever want to live in your country of origin, where's the best place in the world to raise kids?" And that's what started the conversation. He said France, I said Italy, and I said, "Well, since they're both on the way back to Asia, let's stop in both and house hunt." So we spent a
Ah,
month in each. We did not find a house in 2000. We found it 3 years later. But when we returned to Hong Kong, we knew that Italy was the place where, if we ever had children, that's where we'd want to raise them. So that's how we found Italy. And then we had children and we renovated a property for 5 years before moving here and moved here permanently in 2008 when the children were young enough that they'd absorbed the language and all that, like first grade, preschool. And the house was so big that it was always my intention to bring people here. I was like, I
mm,
just want to share this part of Italy because I'd lived in Shanghai, Beijing, Tokyo, Melbourne, Hong Kong, Singapore, New York, like all these cities. And this is what people dream of. And I thought,
mhm,
well, this is 26 years before retreats became a thing. This is like back in
right.
2000 when I was searching. It was like, let's find something big enough to bring people here and share this part of the world with them. So it's been an idea for a long time.
That's a fascinating story, and I
Yeah.
love it so much. We
Yeah,
could
and the dream
probably,
again. The dream got put on hold for 15 years.
right,
You
as
raise
children will do.
kids. You don't have time. You get a divorce. The whole thing goes belly up. And then one day, a friend said to me, in a big villa, she was like, "I'm so tired of doing weddings. It is so labor intensive. It's exhausting. I don't have
Mm,
any." And then another friend, and a totally separate conversation, said, "I have this big printing press. I'm an artist. I never have time to print. I would love to go back to teaching." And my brain just went, ding, ding, ding. Why don't we put the printing press in the cantina of the villa and run a retreat? And
oh
that's how
my
the idea
goodness.
came to be.
What a beautiful story. I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
seems
Synergy,
to,
right?
yes, it's such beautiful synergy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine. And it's
Yeah.
so cool that you took it and ran with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It
we're
was
going to talk
time.
all about that. So that was my next question of how the idea and that's exactly how the idea came about. So that is fantastic. I was going to ask you also what drew you to Italy, and you told me, but tell me more about like specifically when you saw, was it obviously the education, but then the area? Is that what you fell
Well,
in love with?
I think it was more than that. I think, I mean, I spoke French, and when he said he wanted to live in France, I was like, yay! And we went and we house hunted, and still, like, the house of my dreams is in my head, and it's that one in France that we saw. But we quickly, within a week in Italy, somebody at the real estate agency was like, where are you staying? And I said, I'm staying in an $8 a night monastery. And she went, oh my God, $8 a night, don't stay there. Here's the key to my flat. I'll stay with my boyfriend. And so next thing you know, we've moved into this hilltop town, Cortona, which was soon to become famous from under the Tuscan sun, but was not famous at this time.
Oh.
And you're talking to the neighbors and buongiorno, madame, and you know, where you're from. You're talking to everybody. And the real estate company was soon like, oh, you're here for a whole month. Why don't you come out with us to dinner? We're restoring this house. The builders all have a big pig on a spit. Come and have dinner with us. And it took about a week or two before my husband turned to me and said, did we meet any French people in France? I said, no, we didn't meet anyone but the realtors. And so I think we've quickly realized, like, if neither parent is French and you live in France, you're always going to be an outsider. But I think with neither parent being Italian, raising kids in Italy, they were going to be Italian. It's an immigrant country. All the Italians have left. Everybody else has come in. Teachers, the school system, the education system is used to Italian not being the first language in people's homes. Albanian is, Romanian is, Tunisian is, Moroccan is, you know, so they're used to that, and they're set up for kids that come into the school system not knowing Italian. So,
That's
yeah, my
fantastic.
kids,
What an
I came,
international.
yeah, I came when they were 6, 6, and 3. They're 24, 24, and 21. And I would say I've succeeded in raising Italians. Nobody can speak without using their hands. Nobody. None of those children.
What a cool international upbringing, just to know all of those different people from all those different places. I think that would be really interesting as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about these Italian retreats. What can a guest expect at this villa?
You know, it's just like the idea from 2000. I don't want you to feel like you've come on a retreat and you're on holiday. I don't want people to ever say, oh, I'm going on vacation to Italy. I always wanted them to leave saying, I now have friends in Umbria. Because, you know, like it's set up. It doesn't even have to be set up because we live here. So we're just introducing you to a part of our lives. If we say, like, let's walk up the hill to Panicale and pick botanicals for our prince and have a drink in the piazza, well, that's what I do anyway. You know, if I invite a vineyard owner over to come and do wine tasting, or we go do olive oil tasting, or we roll pasta, these are all with our friends. There's no middleman. There's no calling up people and scheduling it and organizing it. It's just what we do anyway. So I really want people to feel like they're getting this amazing, well, first of all, it's always a visual experience in Italy, right? There's the churches, the paintings, the statues, the piazzas, the landscape, the light. I mean, artists have been writing about Italy for years. So you've got that visually. You've got the fact that you're printmaking and you're rolling and you're making pasta. So there's a lot of manual experiences that we don't otherwise get to have. And then just olfactory. You know, our chefs are phenomenal. People have told us it is the best food they've ever eaten in Italy, not on retreats, but in Italy. And I've had multiple guests say this. They are the secret sauce. So your senses are going between the wine tastings and the olive oil tasting and the food. And I just want people to walk away just having this humongous, just sensory experience, but never feel like they were on holiday. Just feel like they were visiting Cynthia and Emma in Italy.
That sounds amazing. I think we've already sold everyone on all the retreats, so we could just stop talking.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
But seriously,
it's the easy part. You know, I took a retreat course to get everything started, because being on the business side of it.
Yes.
And there's honestly 3 to 8 modules about finding your location, right? And that's it's the most important part. And for me, it didn't exist. I already had my location. It's my friend's villa.
That's
done.
Fantastic.
So there's another 3 modules on doing contracts. I've never done a contract. They're my next door neighbors. Like, I'm not doing it, right? They're selling me the wine. I'm paying for the wine. There's no contract. So a lot of it is just made so much easier because I live here and this is my home.
It's definitely my favorite part of different trips I've been on is where you get to know people who actually
Yeah.
live there. Or when we did our Moroccan retreat, our guide
Mm-hmm.
was going through his hometown, so he called his
Mm-hmm.
mom and we went over and she served us a beautiful meal
It's
off the cuff.
everybody's favorite part of any travel, right?
Yes,
Is
it was
knowing someone who
so
lives there.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
her
yeah.
get her water from her well and, deal with
Exactly.
all it was just such a wonderful time. So that is so exciting to think that this isn't, for example, like a retreat I do always try to get a local guide or a local
Mm-hmm.
somebody to give me instruction of the best place of this or the best place of that. But the best doesn't always mean the best. You
No,
know
it
what I
means it's
mean?
one of their friends and they're helping them out
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
restaurant tip.
Right. But that's
Yeah.
probably even better
No.
than just going to a place that has a good reputation. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine that the people that leave your retreats do feel like, oh, well, I have friends, I have
Yeah.
connections now,
I did, one
in
day,
Italy.
one of our retreats, our walk up to Panicale to collect botanicals. It was a printmaking retreat. We ended up sitting in the piazza and you have different days in the retreat. This happened to be a Sunday and I totally forgot. And of course everybody came out of church and they ran around the piazza with their kids and their dogs and whatever. And one girl on the retreat said, "There's not a single foreigner here. These are all Italians doing what Italians do on a Sunday." And at the retreat ended and I asked everybody their favorite part and what they liked and what they're going to bring home. And everyone said just being there in the middle of Italian life. But not it didn't hit me that I had chosen Sunday to go up to the piazza with everybody, and
Right?
it
Where
it
you're
really
mingling with
it
them. You're
impacted
not
the
serving.
guests. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really
Whether you're
impacted everyone.
I bet as you're talking about it, I'm thinking of other times that I've been in that situation. And it's just
Yeah,
the best. You
yeah, it
feel
is.
like, oh, I
You feel like,
have been
oh,
part of the culture.
yeah, this
So,
is
and
how
I
they live.
know you don't
Yeah.
get that everywhere in Italy.
No, and
Like,
can I tell
yeah,
you the thing with, I'm on the border of Tuscany and Umbria, and you can imagine with the influencers, like the number of people now doing retreats, doing wine tours, doing, I'll help you find a house in Italy. Um, these people, well, they mainly live here part time, so or they don't live here at
at
all,
all.
and they
Sure.
just come in. And yeah, I just watch. It's the same old beaten path. It's the same people. It's the same tour companies. It's
Right.
you going to go on a retreat with someone who lives here part time or doesn't live here at all? And, and the other thing
Yes.
is cost. When
Yeah.
you do that, you're paying for a retreat leader's flight. You're paying for
Yeah.
the retreat leader's food. You're paying for my cost is zero. Zero.
Right. Yes.
Right? I'm at my
Right.
friend's house. I sleep at home. I don't fly here. I eat for free. The artists eat for free. The artists stay at the villa for free. There are no additional costs because this is my girlfriend's home.
That's
And so,
fantastic.
yeah, and you don't, you don't need to spend the money that people are spending. And the only reason people are spending that because there's so many middlemen,
Right.
right?
Well, you
Setting up
have
the,
yeah, and you have gone on to work with artists from different countries. And of course, you deal with attendees from all different countries. So tell us about that. How does that work out for you?
so the real fun thing that happened is, one woman came June 2025 for an etching retreat. She's a graphic design, retired teacher, emerita from upstate New York. And she came with her mother, and who was a Midwestern lady in her 80s. There's a lot of great mother-daughter visitors, which I just love. Two sisters, mother-daughters. I love all that, all the
Yeah.
family uniting. But she came, and within a year, she came back. And within a year for another etching retreat. And we were sitting
Mm.
up in the piazza having coffee in May. I saw her in May and she said, my goal is to come to Italy every year. She's always loved it. Her exit interview, I said, "How do you feel leaving?" And she said, "I don't want to go." And she said, I would be willing to come back and teach a Lino print retreat next year. And I was like, "You would?" She's the most experienced of any of my teachers. She's written books, and
Yeah.
and spoken at. So I was so excited that talk about forming a community. Like this person who'd been a student twice is now going to come back and run my Lino print retreat last year.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's happened
Every
to me
year.
3 times in 1 year. The 2 girls that came last autumn to a jelly print retreat, one of them was so prolific. I mean, she did zillions of prints. And I said, I knew she was a therapist. I knew she wasn't an artist. And she said, well, actually, I do collage and I sell collage. And I said, do you want to come back and run my jelly print retreat? And she came back this past June, ran 2 of my jelly print retreats. They were such a hit. She's coming back next year to run a collage jelly print retreat. So yeah, it's students becoming my teachers is what's real. It's really interesting.
That is interesting.
I also have next year a wonderful, I have 2 European girls. I have a German girl who does book illumination, which is the drawing of medieval manuscripts. And she's actually up in Germany. She's done the pages of the Gutenberg Bible and the Gutenberg things. You can buy them at the stores, and she's done the illumination on it. So she's going to teach us how to do, ornate initials and medieval animals and medieval patterns and guild and all that stuff. And she already has a following. She's been doing. She did a retreat at a castle in Germany. I took an online class with her on how to draw a dragon. Wait, I have my dragons.
Oh.
I've never drawn anything in my life. I draw these dragons.
Oh, wow. No, I was looking at your retreats, and that's the one that totally caught my eye. I've been a scrapbooker.
This is literally, I cannot draw a straight line. And she had us, and this is a 45-minute online class, so I get on to make sure I like them and I like her. So I am so excited that she's coming down from Germany to run one next year. And then a really fascinating Czech artist that I found. I was thinking about etching. I was thinking about how our etching retreats are on these copper plates, and most people don't have copper plates sitting around, and they have big printing presses. And who has a big printing press at home? I mean, they're heavy, they cost a fortune. And I found this print artist who does Tetra Pak printing. So you etch on, old milk cartons or juice cartons, and she uses things around the house, like the top of your fast food container that's half metal and half. So she does sort of like recycled, upscaled materials, and she's absolutely prolific. She studied in London. She's a young girl, but she runs studios in the Czech Republic. So she teaches all over the Czech Republic, and she's coming down next October to run a printmaking retreat with botanicals and upcycled materials, and she's going to teach us how to do accordion books or, I don't know, journals or anything. Yeah. So I'm finding really, really fascinating teachers, both locally and the ones from America are our former students. So it's been lots of fun. It's been a lot of fun selecting teachers.
That is fun. And they're so diverse. And that printing press is so interesting. Of course, I'm obsessed with the Outlander series where he was a printing.
Oh, right.
He had a printing press. And I've always
it's funny.
been into those.
Somebody at our gelling print retreat leaving, I said, what are you going to take away from this? And she said, I'm going to go home to London. I'm going to buy a jelly plate, and I'm going to buy one for my best friend, and we're going to jelly print together. And I thought, the people that go to the etching retreats can't say that. They can't go home and buy so how can I have them have the same takeaway and be able to etch and sketch at home, and thus finding Petra from the Czech Republic to do that etching class. Yeah.
That is an interesting point.
Yeah.
I bought a beautiful etching when we were on a vacation up in Alaska. I was telling you about. Yes, of a bear, and the guy etches it on this shiny stone, the stone that he shines up. And it's so beautiful. But I would just love to see this class that you're talking about.
Yeah. She sounds like she uses a lot of ecological or just around the house materials, which makes it. Yeah. There's a lot of you've been on a retreat, and somebody asked at the last one in the middle of a beautiful yoga movement. She said, how do we keep this? How do we keep this feeling at home that we feel when we're on retreats? And we turned to the most spiritual girl in the room, and she said, you just got to find those little moments in your life. You're going to take that second and have that pause and have that sense of calm that we all feel here, and turn what we're learning here into little moments in your life. But
it's true.
You think about that spiritually, and then I think about it practically in terms of the art. Like, how do people go home and continue to do this at home?
I agree. Even last night, I was thinking, I should run upstairs, which is here in my studio where I have all my art supplies, and do a couple of paintings that I've been wanting to do. But I didn't do it. But I'm like, why didn't I do that? I could have come up here, turned on the music, brought my glass of wine, and just, had a great time. But we need to take those moments. You're so right that we don't.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is the
That's
best part about of a retreat is giving people the time to do that stuff where they do it, and you're sitting there
yeah.
doing it, and you're like, why don't I do this all the
Yeah.
time? So tell me, what are some of the hidden things that have surprised you in building retreats?
Um, I don't think, I think mine are effortless because I live here. I think they really are. I think the hardest part creating them, and I don't even mind doing the admin and all the helping people with their flights or their payment plans and all of that. But I would say the hardest thing, I didn't think selling would be this hard. And I didn't think selling would be this hard because first of all, I started a Facebook group. You're supposed to start a Facebook group about your retreat, and everybody joined, and I didn't have to publicize it. And I thought, oh, this is great. There's all these self-selected people who have joined a group called Umbrian Art Retreats for Italy lovers. So you either love Italy or you love art or you want to go on a retreat. And
Right.
then when you run Facebook ads, you ask people for what would an art retreat in Italy do for you? Or like, what do you think you'll get out of it? And you get these really emotional, soulful, very personal answers. And I thought, this is going to be a piece of cake. People already know what they want and they know what they need. And then they don't do it. And it's just really hard for me, who's put travel first in my life, to understand the concept of putting it second or doing it after something, after my husband retires, after my kid graduates, or after I renovate the kitchen. You know what? Next year I want to come to Italy. Oh, someday I want to come to Italy. I can't wrap my head around it. I have a really hard time understanding why we don't put the things that feed our souls first. Like what? Because for me, I've spent my entire life buying the ticket first, and then the car breaks down and I can't. And literally, last summer, give you an example. My son last August went to sail around the world. And as I waved goodbye to him on the docks in Portsmouth, I turned to everyone on the dock and I said, what's the best of all these stops around the world? They're going to stop on all these continents. Where's the best place to meet him? And I already had friends meeting him in Cape Town and Perth and Airlie Beach, Australia. And everyone said, Qingdao, China, does a great show when the boats get there, and Oban, Scotland. And I went home that night and I booked the Airbnb for a year from then. And then I went home and my car broke down, and it did. And then my other car broke down 3 times. And then the tax man hit the bill and the bathrooms never got renovated. But who cares? Because when I went to Oban, Scotland and saw these 10 boats of circumnavigators get off and tell their stories, it was one of the most meaningful weeks of my life. Can you imagine if I hadn't done that because my car broke down or because my bathrooms are still falling apart? I mean, so it's really hard for me. I get really emotional about this because I am the person who buys the ticket first. Just buy the ticket. If you want to go somewhere, go somewhere. I don't understand next year my child's graduating. It's going to be a busy year for them. Okay, what does that have to do with you? Go to Italy. Like, what does that have anything to do with you?
That's what I tell people all the time.
Changing careers. You're like, what?
Yeah,
what?
I tell people that all the time. No, you do have 7 days. I know you have 7 days. You have time for
I think
yourself.
It's a big. I just have this theory living in a Catholic country where everything's about fate. I have a real big thing about this Puritan work ethic that we think we need to deserve something nice. As soon as I finish this, as soon as I complete that, as soon as this happens, I'll treat myself to a trip to, like, why do we have to wait?
So true. And it fits the narrative of this podcast perfectly because I'm not teaching how to do retreats here. I am trying to show everyone the opportunities that are out there. And that's what you're just naturally telling me is exactly what I'm trying to tell everyone is that we need breaks and we come back stronger and healthier and more able to give when you
I can't tell you I was trying to think of before I came on your podcast, I was watching all the videos of everybody, what they got out of this. And it was so various, but I have to say, bravery kept coming up. Like one woman said to me, I've never gone on holiday without my spouse or without a girlfriend. I've never been on holiday alone. I'm 60 years
Right.
old.
No.
Or, I mean, one woman, she is so funny. She was nearly 70. And one girl on the retreat was like, from Monaco said, I just saw Bruce Springsteen in Milan. And she was like, I love Bruce Springsteen. And the girl said, well, he's playing in Spain. And she goes, should I not go to France and see my oldest friend? Should I go to Spain? Screw it, I'll go to Spain. She goes to Spain by herself and sees Bruce Springsteen. And she said to me, I never would have done that if it hadn't been for your retreat. The number of people who said, I didn't know I was creative. I'm going to go home and try new things. I'm going to. One woman went home and got the job of her dreams, had changed career midlife, did her master's. And these people coming out of their shells, it's really astonishing. And that surprised me the most. Also, the reason people come surprises me the most. Like, it's the funniest reason I've ever had anyone come on a retreat. These two sisters in their 20s, we're going around the circle. Why are you here? And they said, our older sister's getting married in Florence next week, and we don't want to have anything to do with the preparations. So we said, sorry, can't help. We're going on a retreat. But
that's hilarious.
I have a friend who was in Portugal, who she said, I've lived in Portugal for decades, but I've never been to Italy. And I'm never going to jump in a car and see this part by myself, but I don't want to go to Florence, Venice, Rome. So she joined for that reason. Another woman was traveling for 6 months by herself, and she said, I have decision fatigue. Like, do I take this train? Do I get on this bus? What do I eat? Where do I stay? She just wanted to go sit somewhere for a week, have someone tell me what to do, meet other women my own age, and then continue. And so there the number of reasons that people have said, and obviously the artists understand why they're there. Artists are there because a change of scenery, gets the juices going. Yeah, breaks you out of that artist block, inspires you.
And they get to be with their people for a week. Yeah. I think they absolutely love that. I know
and it's what you said about, like, I want to go up to my studio and work for when artists are working at home, they have time blocks like we all do. Like, I'm going to go work in the studio for 2 hours. But imagine if that 2 hours was a day. And now imagine if that day was a week. Like, to give themselves that time for them is so beautiful.
And I love what you were talking about, doing it solo, because so many people, they're trying to talk their sister, their mother, their whoever, best friend to go on this retreat with them. But the first retreat I went to solo was to another country, and I was scared.
Yeah.
But, it worked. And that is the retreat where I got so many downloads. And it sounds like what your students are getting also when they're there.
I have a lot of I've never left the country for Americans. And some are 24 and some are 64. My 65-year-old cousin, I don't know, sorry, Donna, if you're listening. I don't know what she is, mid-60s. She got a passport to come to my retreat and started to take early Social Security. She's like, I'm doing it. She was waiting for her daughters, and then they're getting married and they're having kids. And finally she said, and her husband's waiting for him to retire. She said, what am I waiting for? I'm just going to go to Italy.
Right.
And so I've had a lot of first time out of the country. And next year I have it'll be my first time out of the country. Yeah. It's really
for me, it
brave
turned
thing
out
to
it's
do.
my favorite way to travel.
Yeah.
I don't have anyone telling me what to do. Like whenever my husband or my daughter or someone's with me, they're always, okay, now we're going to this, now we're going to that. I just love, drop me off at the airport by myself. I am in my happy place. The moment that happens,
someone at my last retreat said, I'm really glad I came alone because I didn't have to turn to a friend to make sure they're having a great time too. To make sure, make sure your friend with you are you enjoying this? Are you getting the same out of it? Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's really, one woman was recommended my retreat for grief counseling. She got over the grief of losing her husband. And she said afterwards,
how that would work for me too. Being in a beautiful
she said, I'm done.
place
I'm ready to go on to the next stage. I mean, you're never going to not feel grief about losing your husband, but she was stuck, and so I mean, I think you said, like, what's it like? I mean, to me, doing the retreat is easy. Planning the retreat, running the retreat is easy. Selling is really difficult to make people do what they know that they want to do. But also, as a retreat leader, it's really hard targeting it when you've got all these different reasons that people are there.
Yeah, it's like, how do you put all of those people you just talked about into an ideal client? That's what cracks me up. It's like,
So
oh,
one
you're
of my
supposed to.
favorite exit interview questions: who is this retreat for? You know what this woman said to me? I think this retreat is for anybody, any woman over 40 who is someone who needs time for themselves. They've been taking care of their husbands, their kids, their parents, their grandchildren, their friend groups, their work, every one of us needs a week to ourselves. So she's like, I don't know who this wouldn't be for. And it was a really interesting comment.
And especially because we all want to go to Italy.
Yeah, right. Everybody loves Italy. We do.
Do you want to talk about partnering with those artists?
Yeah. I mean, I started, that was the biggest. Yeah, as a retreat leader, talking to other retreat leaders, the biggest thing that changed for me was I changed the whole business plan. It started out the owner of the house, the artist, and myself. And it didn't work out in a real brazen, horrible way that one of my attendees actually said the words to me. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Your partner is sabotaging your retreats. She didn't say is going to sink them. She didn't say is going to make them not work. She said she was an excellent art teacher. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. She's an excellent art teacher, and every single person that loved what they produced, even the people that weren't there for the art. But her energy was nervous. She was smoked and ran on caffeine and didn't eat, and she was anorexic. And this attendee was a therapist. And I think therapists are it's hard to turn it off, right? When you're used to providing therapy for people. So she said to me, like, nobody comes on a retreat to see a retreat host this stressed. So, which is very true. And all I was focused on was like, God, what a great artist she is. And look at all the great art everybody's producing. And everybody was happy with her. And all we got was positive comments the first retreat. No, the second one, this woman said to me, wow, she is really out of her mind, stressed out. And I was also doing all the work, and I was really feeling the pressure of that selling. And I just thought at the same time were these two girls who I said, why don't you come back next year and run the retreat and you be the artist? And they said, okay. And they went home and filled it with like all their friends. And my brain just went ding, 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 just work with artists who have their own followings. So that led to this great collaboration this year, a collaboration with 4 different artists next year who either, when they have their own followings, and it's not just people that have their own followings, because I found a beautiful person in England who I thought, oh, I want to invite her. And then she said, oh, and I just had a new baby. And I was like, oh, she's never going to do a retreat in Italy. It has to be people who are either teaching online or teaching in their studios or doing mini courses, maybe a day class, maybe a weekend class. Maybe they're already running retreats like Julia, the book illumination artist, who just did one in a castle in Germany. Like, I just thought, if they already have their own following, doesn't that make my marketing part a lot easier? So that's the biggest change is collaborating, is calling up artists and saying, do you want to run a retreat in Italy? You run the studio time and I do everything else.
And that is so wonderful for the artist. Let them be an artist, not a retreat, organizer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it really shows with the attendees. Like, they really feel like, oh, here's who I turn to for this. Here's who I turn to for that. They know exactly who they need to talk to for anything. Right. And I love that first retreat I was talking about that I went on solo
in Monaco
was with the Astro twins. They're astrologers, and they're these 2 twins. And they were totally kind of set aside from the retreat. They just came in for the classes and the excursions, and that was pretty much it. The rest of the time, well, they were there for the meals. But it was really cool the way they got to retreat also, as well as, they got to take a moment or two to themselves. They didn't have to deal with every attendee, every moment. And it really set the idea for me. I'm like, oh, okay, here is how a professional retreat is handled. And it worked out great for everyone. As an attendee, I felt like, okay, we did class, now I can chill,
Yeah.
Now I can do what I want.
The division of labor is really great. I mean, Emma floats in. She's the villa owner, and she comes over for dinners, and everyone gets to know her. But our two chefs, one is her childhood best friend. So they are always at the villa anyways, and so they know the villa. So I don't know, your blind gets stuck or you have a question about, I don't know, a window shutter, and they're there to answer the question. So it's so great that we have the two chefs
and
who know the villa, and then any other questions come to me, and anything that goes on in the studio stays with our artists. It's really nice. It's really
I think you've got it down, because then you're right. The venue is a whole nother layer. So if you're a retreat leader that is putting on the classes, organizing all of the retreat, even some rent an Airbnb and do the cooking. And I'm always like, who does the cleaning? Please don't do the cleaning also. It's just too much when you really narrow it down. So as an retreat attendee, I would look at one of your retreats and say, wow, this is at a gorgeous place that they do it all the time. They obviously know what they're doing. And this retreat organizer, she takes care of everything. And then there's this artist that I probably love. I want to follow all of those artists you're talking about, by the way.
No, they're really,
that's so cool. I think you really have it nailed down. I'm really impressed. And of course, it's really cool just being in this gorgeous location. Of course, I keep going back to that. So I do have some questions that are little, I wrote on mine, tough questions.
Go ahead. Do the tough questions. Let's go.
Well, your
audience deserves to hear it.
You've experienced profitable retreats, a break-even retreat, a loss, and a cancellation, which I have had to do as well. What did those different experiences teach you?
The profitable ones, when your first one is profitable, you're like, yay, the idea works, I'm doing the right thing. The next one was the loss, but ironically, that was with the two girls who ended up being the teachers for the following June. So that was quite interesting that, first of all, one of them was a friend of mine. So I always looked it up as it's just a wash. Just pretend you have a friend coming to visit you and you spent too much money, So a loss, but, I could have canceled it, but they were already coming to Italy for two different reasons. So I didn't cancel it. And what I got out of it was something better. I got two retreat teachers. One girl said, I'll go to Mexico and get and do a yoga instructor's course and come back and assist my friend in the studio, because she had also taught, she taught to students in the schools in Philadelphia, so she'd also been an art teacher, and then have the actual artist come back and teach. So even the loss was fantastic because I ended up with two teachers. And then the break even was fine because I had a feeling it was going to be a break even. And the two teachers who I'd asked the month before to come back were already filling the next retreat. So I was like, well, this break even's okay because I'm going to get two profitable ones in 6 months' time. And the cancellation, that was this September. And it was, what did I learn from that? I saw it coming 6 months down the road, and I put hope before logic. I probably should have pulled the plug earlier, so that Emma could have had time to fill the week. I mean, she might have, I don't know. So she could have, and so that our chefs could have had rearranged their schedule and not, plan to be in Italy that week and all that. Because I did see it coming. I paired with a friend who was an art teacher in Rome. She had taught she'd done lots of art, like art studio work. And she said, all these people, I'm going to publicize to all them. And I always thought it was such a good idea to invite people from Rome and Milan and people from the cities that wonder, what's it like to live in the country? Just like all of us that live in the country are like, what's it like to live in Rome? So I thought it'd be a great audience match. She knows everybody. And she didn't find one person to come to the retreat. So it was coming close to my June ones. And I said, listen, I'm now going to be not selling. I'm going to be busy running these two retreats. And at the end of it, if I don't have anyone, I'm going to have to pull the plug and lose this deposit. And I'll keep promoting. And she wasn't promoting, and she was asking me to send her stuff. And I was sending her all the emails and Facebook posts, and it didn't happen. Long story short is I let it go too long without a single person. And it was a week before I had to make the final payment on the villa. And I was going to Scotland to see my son come back from sailing around the world, and I knew I wasn't going to be selling retreats when I was up there in Scotland for 3 weeks, and I canceled it, and I let three people down. I let Emma, the villa owner, down, and the two chefs, and what did I don't know. In return, I said all the money that I would have spent, I'm going to give it to you as deposits for next year. So I gave her all the money that I saved, not paying for I gave it to her as deposits for last year.
So, and I've been in that
apologize, it's
same
just so
situation.
you know.
Right.
Yeah. So
But it
lesson
was,
learned. Just because your most
yes,
social friend in the whole world who literally knows everyone, their
right.
house is just, I've never been to her house in my life where they don't have 10 other guests. And I just thought when she said, oh my gosh, I can fill this for you. I'm so excited to do this with you. She came to one of our retreats the first day. She was a hit. Everybody loved her. I just thought she'd, I don't know, not fill it, but at least break even. And we just didn't have a single person. And I should have seen that 6 months in advance or 4 months in advance. But on the other hand, retreat leaders or retreat course people will always tell you, you can fill a retreat in a month. And you and I know you can fill a retreat. The really good retreat hosts can fill a retreat in a month. And I just didn't have the time or the Facebook ads or the energy or to be on the phone and calling people. I just didn't have the time to do it. Because of
Right,
personal
especially
stuff.
if in the last 6 months, nothing, you hadn't seen any movement that's perfect, you know exactly how it's going to work out.
Yeah.
But, right, and I just want like everyone to know that even retreat leaders who have years and years of experience have the same situation happen with even if you're dealing with someone who has a great following, it doesn't always mean it will be a sold out retreat. And you
Right.
do always see so many ads. Obviously, because I'm in the retreat business, that's the only ads I get. They're always saying, sell it out. If you take this, or $97, you'll learn. And
Right.
and I have nothing against retreat courses. I've absolutely feel like if you're setting up a retreat business, it's a great idea. It's almost imperative to take a course to, learn how to take the payments and pay for the down payments of the villas and all that stuff. So, I think it's great, but it's a business. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows, and that is the way it goes. So I love that we're telling everyone the God's honest truth.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say plan for the future. Like any business takes a few years to make a profit, to get it right. Right. So,
and it sounds like to me that it worked out. One of my next questions was about what the future and how 27 and 28 you're planning out, but it kind of grew organically, which is the coolest. Yes.
Yeah. So 27, I have 4 weeks. 25, I have 8. 28, I have 5 weeks. Sorry, next year I have 4 weeks. The following year I have 5 weeks. It's really hard because Emma gives me the weeks, and I'm like, you need to give me more weeks. But then she's of course like, well, if you're going to cancel on me, or if you're only going to break it, and so you have to gain the trust of your collaborators. And the only way I could gain her trust for next year is just to give her all that money for the down payments and say, look, I'm going to fill these 4 retreats. And even if I don't, you're gonna get your money because I'm, because it means you can't sell the week to somebody else if I take that week from you. So,
and that's what you've learned through all of these different things happening throughout the business. Here's how I'm going to handle it. Here's what I'm going to do. And we can't wait to share all of those retreats in our comments, everyone. So, or in the show notes. So, of course, we will put all of the links to Cynthia, her Instagram, and all of these retreats. I would love to go on one, at least that book illumination.
The book illumination next summer. It's so beautiful, the art. You know what I was trying to think, like, if someone said to me, which of the 4 should I go on? I was thinking that book illumination, for me, when I did my dragons, it's so great for those people with like 50 tabs open. The monkey brain, where your brain's just like, it's so, I mean, all art is concentrative, but it's so concentrative, and it's just meditative and so calming. I was like, oh my gosh, if anybody just has a life going crazy, I would do the book illumination one. Just because it's so, you really, I don't know. You're going back in time. You're going back in time in the villa. You're going back in time with the art. And I think you just naturally, it calms your system.
All right. Well,
I shouldn't plug one over the other.
Just want to tell everyone I have put Cynthia through HE double toothpicks because it is hot as heck in Umbrian.
It's really hot here.
Is that
my
right?
little fan.
Did I say it right?
Yep, Umbria. Yep.
Umbria. And, okay. One final question. What experience is waiting on your bucket list?
Ooh. I'm embarrassed to
Now
say
that
I've never
you
been to India. I'd love to go to India. I would love to go on a textile retreat in Morocco. I really love textiles. I would love to take my kids on an African safari, and I want to live in Paris. I always say I'm going to live in Paris next. I'm going to live in
Oh,
Paris next. I've lived on
perfect.
every
We will.
continent and all these cities, so Paris next. Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
my bucket list of 4.
I love that. You have experiences and travel, so that's perfect. I always say,
Yeah.
it's so easy to just say it's about travel, but it's so much about experiences. And that's what I
Mhm.
love the most about your retreats is
Mhm.
of course, traveling to Italy draws everyone.
Yeah.
Staying in a villa does it again. And
Yeah.
then, if you're like me and you love to deal with, well, I've been a scrapbooker since scrapbooking came
Yeah.
along. And I
Yay.
was probably even, a little, what do they call them? Just a junk
Collage.
journaler.
Yeah.
Yeah, collage
Yeah. A little
before that.
collage. Yeah.
And then I have found out in the last few years that my great grandfather wrote a book that he was a printer. And so
Wow.
he has the book, and there's one on eBay I want to buy right now. I'm like, well, that was done by my grandfather or great
Oh,
great.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
so I'm thinking about going ahead and putting a bid in on that.
That
But
is
yeah,
super cool. Yeah.
everything you're doing out there
Yeah.
is
Yeah. I mean, if
right up my
anybody, I just want to
alley.
say, if anybody has a creative voice, or if you've wanted to explore your creativity and you don't know where to start, I just want to add, if I may, that I asked one of the artists, what do you do with people who say, I am not an artist?
Yeah.
And she said to me, the only reason people say, I'm not an artist is because you can't draw. Because in school, you had to draw a picture in art class and your picture wasn't as good as that person. You went, I'm not an artist. That person's an artist. But when you're doing process art, it's everyone ends up with this beautiful product. And I can't tell you, one girl who said, I'm not an artist at my last retreat did 63 prints. And another girl
Wow.
who said, I'm not an artist, went home and framed her prints and put them on the wall. They look stunning.
Oh,
So if you're just really curious about any new way to express yourself, or want to slow down and do something just for you, obviously. But like, if you've ever wanted to explore your creativity and you don't know where to start, this is a great way to do it. You're not going to go take a watercolor class. You're not going to go paint sunflowers in the field like 90% of the retreats here, and they're great, and the
yeah,
painting retreats are fantastic in
sure.
Tuscany and Umbria, but they're not for people who don't consider themselves artists. Whereas the book illumination, lino printing is fantastic, like carving and making prints and all that. Yeah, these are great little ways for the non-artists and the artists alike to like come together, do some process art, and all end up with something beautiful to take home to remind you of
I'm
your trip
s-
to Italy.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I'm sure that that's what a lot of people do think. It's like, well, I'm not an artist. This isn't for me. But
It,
lo and
it's
behold, it is for you,
yeah,
and it
it's
will help bring
really
out your creativity.
Yeah, it's really important because I never considered myself one, and I'm watching all these people create and thinking like, oh my gosh, everybody is. We just
Okay, Cynthia, thank you so much for joining me. I couldn't be happier. Our conversation. I think we could probably talk about retreats until the end of time.
we could. We could, because I want to hear
Okay.
more about that Moroccan one. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I really loved
All
it. It was
right.
a wonderful talking
Okay.
with
Well,
you.
you have a nice evening. It's evening for
Thank
you
you.
over there. And the first
Yeah,
time we
it
talked,
is.
what did you say? I'll have a cappuccino because it's AM for me, and you'll have
I'll have a
a
Prosecco.
bubbly.
It's Prosecco hour. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Oh,
Prosecco
okay. That's
hour in
what we're
Umbria.
doing.
You have to do it. Okay.
Yeah. So everyone join us wherever you are and what works best for you.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Take it.
thanks again. And you have
Thank you
a
so
lovely
much. Take
evening.
care. We'll
Okay.
speak again soon.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for having me.
Friends, if you have enjoyed this conversation about Italian retreats with my friend Cynthia Morgan, please consider following the podcast. We would love to share more information with you just like this. And if you know someone who might be interested in one of these amazing Italian getaways, check the show notes and send it to them. And let them know they can watch the podcast to learn more about it. Until then, keep retreating, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next adventure. Bye-bye. Huge thanks to Cynthia for joining me today. It took us forever to upload this podcast, and she was a trooper. I love that.
What if you gave yourself permission to pause, to breathe a little deeper, to laugh a little louder, to reconnect with the happiest version of you? Welcome to Find Your Happy Women's Retreat in beautiful Samana, Dominican Republic. Nestled between the lush jungle and the sparkling Caribbean Sea is Zaria. So much more than a typical retreat center. It's a place to slow down, soak it all in, and on this retreat, you will remember what lights you up. Joining you on this unforgettable journey is Frances Starr Graham, Adrienne Aries, and me, Kelly Morgan Murley. Together, we have created a week filled with connection, inspiration, adventure, and most importantly, plenty of fun. You'll savor fresh local food made by our private chef. We will relax by the infinity pool on the mountaintop overlooking the beautiful Caribbean Sea. We will enjoy meaningful conversations led by Frances and Adrienne and connect with incredible women who may have arrived as strangers but oftentimes leave as lifelong friends. Waterfall, beach, zipline, all included. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you can even add whale watching and horseback riding if you so choose. And because this is Bucket List Retreat, we are also adding a little adventure. Think hidden beaches, tropical waterfalls, ocean excursions, absolutely beautiful, breathtaking green scenery, and moments that will remind you how amazing life can be. We will gather for powerful ceremonies, reflection, and personal growth, and those beautiful conversations that only seem to happen when you are far from home and fully present. This isn't about becoming something new. It is about reconnecting the joy, the confidence, and the happiness that already resides within you. Ladies, if your soul has been craving connection, adventure, rest, and a little bit of magic, we would love for you to join us. Find Your Happy Women's Retreat, Samana, Dominican Republic. Your seat is waiting. See you soon.
I love you, Gaga.